Question: how do you know and how can you prove that the Bible, this one, is the Word of God? How do you know and how can you prove the authenticity of this Bible if it is the Word of God? Answer: don't prove the Bible if it is the Word of God, but prove the God who speaks the Word. Don't try to prove if the Bible is the Word of God. The best thing you can do, prove if it is indeed God that speaks. If somebody can come into your house and say, hello, I am God, then it gives you some instructions and some commandments and whatever the case may be. Why would you believe whatever he says? Is it going to be because of what he says? Well, sometimes even the angels of darkness, they present themselves as the angels of light. In other words, even the gods, small letter G, gods, they can provide some results. I remember there was a time when somebody told me that I went to the Inyanga and I came back from the Inyanga. Whatever that was my problem, it was sorted immediately after I had done everything that the Inyanga said I must do. So this person has got a testimony that this works. Or somebody might say, I consulted the spirits of the dead, and whatever questions that I had were answered, or whatever the problems that I had were solved. Now, the authenticity of the word is not proven by proving the word. Let's prove the God who speaks. So if somebody comes to your house and say, I am God, and then they give you some instructions and whatever the case may be, how are you going to know that what he says is true? It is if you're going to prove that he is indeed God. Now, first of all what we know is that God cannot lie. So once we know that this is God, we can know that whatever that he says is true, because God cannot lie. So how do we know that the Bible is the Word of God? Let us prove if this word is spoken by God. So what are the things that we are going to look at so that we can prove the authenticity of the Word of God, as to prove that the God who speaks it is indeed God? In the Old Testament, we have some amazing instances that are widely known, not only by believers, but also by the Gentiles. For example, we have the instance of the people of Israel who were under slavery in the country of Egypt, who left Egypt gloriously and mightily as God opened the Red Sea for people to walk on dry land. It is the incident that is reported and known not only biblically but also extra biblically, that indeed there was a time when in Egypt there were people of Israel, or Hebrews, who left drastically. So we know that God indeed was involved in that. We have seen God speaking to the people of Israel in Mount Sinai, in many other places in the Old Testament. Old Testament basically is one of the places that everyone can go to without questioning anything about the Testament itself, and about the authenticity of the Testament, and about the involvement of God in that Testament. The most important question comes in the New Testament. How do we know that there's connection between the Old and the New Testament, and that the God who speaks in the Old Testament is the same in the God that speaks in the New Testament? Easy. What did Jesus say? Jesus said, I have come in the authority of my Father. He said, I and the Father are one. Meaning which Jesus came not to destroy the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. So he came to testify of the Old Testament God. How do we know that Jesus is true? He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. But this is his own ways. How can we prove outside of his own ways? He said, you are going to kill me, and after you have killed me, my Father is going to raise me from the dead. Did God raise Jesus from the dead? If it is true that God raised Jesus from the dead, then God the Father was attesting to Jesus that indeed Jesus is the Son of God. And if it is true that Jesus raised from the dead, and I say it is true, then Jesus is in heaven. And if it is true that Jesus is in heaven, then it means that Jesus has been in heaven for more than 2,000 years now. And if that's the case, then Jesus is God. And if Jesus is God, because there's no one who can live for such a long time, and if Jesus is God, then Jesus is telling the truth, because God cannot lie. Therefore, I say to you, and I put it to you, that the word that is written in the Bible, that is called the Word of God, is indeed the Word of God. And if it is the Word of God, it is true, because God cannot lie. As blood is thicker than water, so is truth mightier than lies. Therefore, allow me here to present to you nothing but the truth. The truth.